Call of Duty Zombies has lost its identity, what made it truly unique and special. A game mode that was once bursting with creativity and individual ideas has seemed to slip away from our grasp. Ideas of fighting off zombies in a temple or on the moon has transformed into fighting off zombies in a bland, soulless military bunker. So what happened? Well, let's take a look back to see the decisions that developers made to get us to where we are at now. Call of Duty Zombies is very sentimental and special to me. As someone who really didn't get to play the game until I got it during the whole quarantine and COVID situation, I still got to experience some of the best times of my life reliving all of the games. This game mode single-handedly has been a key part of my life for the past 5 to 6 years straight, and with that time, I have gained unprecedented knowledge of lore, community events, and why this game was so intriguing even to those who mainly played the two other modes. For me, it was actually quite easy to determine where the identity of the mode was questioned, since I, being someone who showed up late to the party, had all of the games up to BO4 laid out to me essentially. And it really exaggerates the differences and contrasts between each of these modes because I could see each of them individually at the same time. Now, Call of Duty Zombies and its identity is a extremely complex subject in the present day, but back in its release, it was a very simple concept. Hold out an area with limited space and a magic box that gives you weapons and sometimes that cool alien pistol. Even after they added perks and pack-a-punch in the later maps, the game remained as simple as possible with an easy way to turn on power and access the new features. Now, before getting into all of this identity stuff, I think it's really important to actually understand the exact definition of what identity really is. The dictionary definition of identity according to Oxford Languages is the fact of being who or what a person or thing is. And I think this perfectly encapsulates what identity is, and it can definitely be applied to Call of Duty Zombies. Black Ops 1 saw some of the most creative maps we have ever seen in any Zombies mode ever, and I honestly love every single one of the maps that were featured in the game. The game managed to contain the identity of a simple Zombies mode, but it also creatively wove new innovations and in-depth Easter eggs to spark a perfect balance of complexity and simplicity. Choosing to do Easter eggs was an option. The maps didn't give you little pop-ups telling you where to go, it just threw you in and said have fun. Horror can be described as an identity, and this game maintains that clearly as well. I mean, the story was still in its heyday at this point, and honestly, it was pretty terrifying back then, and all of the Zombies maps in this game are pretty dang scary, I'm not gonna lie. The difficulty is cranked up, but at no point does it actually feel suffocatingly unfair. It's once again a perfect balance, not too easy but not too hard either. Now, you hear me talking about all of these maps, but in my opinion, identity of this mode at its core doesn't always mean the maps, and honestly, the maps only have a small portion of what makes up the identity of this mode. It is the key features, the way the game is played, and the characters that are all the true players in the identity discussion. So we have described that Black Ops 1 retains all of the identity of Zombies as well as adding new features. Let's see what Black Ops 2 brings to the table. Black Ops 2 follows a very similar path to Black Ops 1, however, the innovations made in this game overtake that of its predecessor. Black Ops 2 introduced many new perks just like Black Ops 1, but it also introduced the buildable system, which it's a pretty important system considering we have seen it in every single game after it. Despite all of these newer innovations, I would argue that the key features of Zombies were still present. A story that required a deep dive into the lore and going out of your way to listen to radios, a perk system, a mystery box, a pack-a-punch, and distinct characters with sometimes eccentric stories were all present in this game just like the ones that came before it. This clearly shows that one can innovate innovate in a game while also keeping a steady hold onto the core identity and basics of the mode. Going to Black Ops 3, this game does the exact same thing with some of the best storytelling in all of Call of Duty Zombies, combined with some of the best features and innovative maps and systems. Despite all of these changes, the game mode is praised like no other, and why might that be? Because it contains the core of zombies, even hidden behind all of the crazy dragons and apothecons. You could play Der Eisendrache and never touch a single bow. You could play Shadows of Evil without touching the apothecon's servant. Without the craziness, it really is just zombies. That's it. Okay, so I know you guys have probably gotten bored, like, he just keeps saying how the identity has stayed the same. When will it ever change? Well, let me introduce you to Black Ops 4. Black Ops 4 is probably the most controversial Call of Duty Zombies game of all time. Some would say it is one of the best, like me, but some would also say it sucks. See, Treyarch were extremely bold with this iteration of the mode and was not scared at all to innovate on new things. But I believe that it is this boldness that caused them to diverge away from what zombies really means to all of us. Taking away key perks like Juggernog, Speed Cola, and Double Tap was just insane for someone to even think about, and I still have no idea why that was even a real thing. Changing from a simple zombie shooter to a more complex story exaggerated mode was certainly a change of pace from its previous titles. Like I said earlier, a mode story should be hidden and mysterious, making you look for it rather than it being shoved all up in your face. Unfortunately, however, I believe Black Ops 4 did a little too much of that, and there was a lot of story in that game, and honestly, the gameplay suffered because of it. Now let's look back at the key points that make up the identity that we established earlier to see if it changed. Do we have a perk system? Yes. Do we have a pack-a-punch? Yes. Do we have key features in zombies? Yes. Do we have characters with in-depth lore? Yes. So what is wrong with the identity of this mode? Well, the clear shift from an inexplicable story with hidden lore and ciphers to a more story-focused mode really did it, and this is where it started going downhill, but it wasn't completely lost yet. On comes Cold War. Now, let me preface this very important part of this discussion with my liking for Cold War Zombies. It wasn't a bad mode, and I love what it did, and it was a very overhated mode for almost no reason, and what happened with the identity of this game is not zombies' fault. It is a single piece that is at fault. Warzone. Warzone is the worst thing that has ever happened to Call of Duty ever as a franchise, and I will die on that hill. Not only did it introduce all of the operator and camo systems, but it also brought with it a wave of popularity that Call of Duty had never seen before. Since the game was so popular, it bled into every mode Call of Duty had to offer, which of course includes zombies. But multiplayer was also affected. I'm not gonna just act like zombies was the only victim here, and it is constantly infected with people with slide canceling and YY, and it's almost like you can't even play for fun anymore, and it's genuinely upsetting. Anyways, like I said, Warzone caused Cold War to lack a bunch of key features that were once important. For instance, the Cold War system added the idea of not even starting with a pistol. The whole premise of zombies was to get stronger with each round, not simply starting out with the weapon you're going to use for the rest of the game. Cold War also took away what Black Ops 4 encouraged so much, a actually encapsulating and entertaining story. The story for this mode is just so basic and boring, and all of these doctors and scientists just feel very forced into the story. This is crazy even for me to say, but Vanguard's Elder Gods are actually not that bad, and I like the idea of them talking to me compared to like what, Dr. Strauss. The mode transformed from being weak and hopeless at the start and gaining power later to simply being overpowered all throughout the game. Remember what I said about difficulty? It shouldn't be too hard or too easy, but this game just said screw it and made it infinitely easier than any mode we have ever seen. However, I can see the struggle that developers have to deal with to create things like this. Creating something with a perfect duality of simpleness and complexity, or a duality of difficulty and easiness, is extremely laborious. But they have done it in the past, so it is certainly possible, and honestly, this game diving into Warzone is just something I wish to never ever see, but it most likely will happen. It breaks me seeing something that was so passionate about everything it did turn into something completely uninspired with lazy Warzone mechanics. The criticisms I have are out of pure love for this mode because I want to experience a Prime again, and I know you guys do as well. In my opinion, the only way that we can stop this superpower of Warzone and regaining full creative freedom would be if Warzone would just stop and shut down, but we know that's never gonna happen. So let's hope Kevin Drew can save us with the game this year. We are all counting on you, Kevin. But anyways, that's it. If you guys have any contradicting opinions or anything of that nature, leave a comment below because I would love to have this little discussion with you. And with that said, it's been a pleasure as always, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.